Hello, parents. Welcome to our How to Stop Yelling at Your Kids training. A couple of you actually asked for a training and some PDFs on this topic, so I'm really excited to bring this to you today. And I hope it's also going to be really valuable in helping you understand a little bit more about what's actually going on here and why some advice you may have gotten in the past, or also some advice you may get online, may not work for your situation. So, how to stop yelling at your kids and what to do instead. So, I'm going to introduce a little bit about myself. Who am I? My name is Victoria Clark Jones, and I am a mom and stepmom of 5 kids from 11 to 21. So, my kids are a little older. I remember going through the early years when my kids were toddlers and when they were, kind of early elementary school age. They were very challenging years. I'm also a former school teacher of 12 years. So while I was raising my kids, I was also working as a school teacher in school. So I was around kids all the time. I'm also a family resilience coach. That's what I do now. And I work with kids, teens, and their parents to help them build better connection in their homes. I'm also the founder of Victor Kids Life Coaching. That's my business that I run my family coaching from. I am also a parent and teacher educator. Before, I just used to work with kids. Now I realize that parents and teachers also need a lot of support. And I want to create a support system for the kids I work with, which parents and teachers are mainly involved in. So, by parent, teachers, and me as a coach coming together, we actually form a scaffold for the kids to grow and learn and just do better and succeed. I'm also a reformed, quote unquote, yelly mom. So, like I shared earlier, while I was raising my own kids, I was also a teacher. I was actually a kindergarten teacher. So, really stressful, challenging job. I would come home to my kids. I'd just be like, oh, come on, give me a break. And I would yell a lot. If you talk to my sons, they did used to say, Mom, you used to yell a lot. And so how do I know that this stuff that I'm going to teach you works is because this is what I went through myself. And I know the different steps I tried to take before, why it didn't seem to be working for me, and what I finally discovered actually worked for me instead. So that's what I want to share with you today. So, first of all, we want to figure out what's beneath the surface, right? We tend to just look at behaviors, and this goes for ourselves, and this also goes for our kids. This is why I teach this iceberg model. Why do we yell? We look at the behavior, which is like the iceberg at the top, the part that we can see. We can see yelling. We can see that we're frustrated as moms, right? We're have super short fuse. Anything happens and it just makes us snap. We're very highly critical of our kids, our teens, especially our teens who like to talk back. It's very difficult to try to get them to do what we want sometimes. And when they do it, they don't always do it in the right way or the way that we think it should be done. And so we're very highly critical of them. We're also maybe critical of our spouse and the way that they do things. And that can also lead to a lot of frustration, right? When people don't do things the way we want. And being furious, just having a super short fuse and being ready to snap at any minute, right? We feel like that a lot of the time as moms. I know it was my reality. Would come home, I could, be okay with the kids because that was my professional life with my students. And in China, they have very, very long school days. It's 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was really like intense, 30 kids in a classroom, all under the age of 5. And so basically, I was giving out all day, and then I would come home, and then my kids would come to me and ask me for things or want me to play with them, and I was at the end of my rope, and I would, snap, or I would yell, or I would, just be frustrated with them, and generally in a bad mood. So I came to learn that what I was actually seeing as behavior, being frustrated, being critical, really having a short fuse, was just the tip of the iceberg. That was what I could see. That was what my kids could see. That was what other people could see in my home. What they didn't see what was going on underneath the surface. So, as moms, I wonder if you can relate to any of these things that are underneath the surface. Just like an iceberg, the majority of the iceberg, 90% of it, is under the surface, right? And that's the part people can't see. But that is really what is bolstering or holding up the tip of the iceberg. So maybe you can relate to some of these. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you're not eating properly. You're just, as you're making your kids' lunches, you're eating the snacks and the leftovers and the crusts and the end bits of the vegetables and fruits, right? We don't take care of ourselves. We're also chronically overtired. We have a lack of sleep. And even if we sleep a lot, the quality of the sleep we get is also really important. So you can say, oh, I get my 8 hours or my 9 hours each night if you're lucky, right? A lot of us are running on like 6 hours of sleep, especially if you've got younger kids or babies, or, your kids are coming in and waking you up during the night, or maybe they even sleep in bed with you. You are probably lacking quality sleep. You may be overstimulated. A lot of us moms, we just feel all touched out all the time, especially if you have young kids and they're always climbing on you, always want to be picked up, always need something, right? They're noisy, they're messy. If you're highly sensitive like I am, I remember my kids playing together, even when they were playing nicely together, they would just squeal and shriek, and it would like get on my nerves so much. And so a lot of us moms are constantly overstimulated, on all forms. You got the TV going on, you have, water on the floor that's messy, the dog's barking, your husband's asking you where something is, and it's just like too much for our senses, right? Messy house can also be a another stimulus for us, right? Just us moms, some of us moms, some of us are, can survive in a little bit of mess and chaos. But for a majority of us, we actually need a clean house. You're not saying like a perfect magazine worthy house, but things are in their place. There isn't food all over the counter. There aren't crumbs all over the floor. There isn't mud being tracked through the house by the kids or the dog, right? Just having a messy house, unfolded laundry. This is my house. Just piles of unfolded laundry and things not really having a home can really lead to just being overstimulated, because it's a visual thing, right? Things just seem messy. And there is actually a principle that says that our environment affects our minds and also is a reflection of what's going on inside us, right? So if we feel very, very chaotic inside and unstructured, our house often resembles the same chaos we feel in our brains, right? So it's kind of catch 22. If you're a working mom, you maybe have work deadlines. So you're trying to work. If you're a work from home mom, you may have work that you need to do. You may have work deadlines. So you need to leave the house by a certain time and your kids aren't ready for school and that's stressing you out. You already start the day off on kind of like a stressful start. You may have financial worries. We are all, struggling with the cost of living going up, groceries being more expensive, gas prices going up, right? We hear a lot of that. And so that can add to just constant level of stress. You may have had an argument with a family member or a friend. If they live nearby, you may have a mother-in-law or some other kind of family member, a sister or something nearby, and oftentimes maybe asking for their help and trying to get their support could lead to some kind of disconnection with them. Maybe something happened. So family members, even if they're close by, sometimes they can be a cause of stress for us, right? Another complaint I often get from moms is they don't feel supported by their husbands, right? Their husbands, yes, they go to work, yes, they're doing that stuff, but then they come home and they just sit on the sofa and they watch TV, and there's still dishes to be done. The kids need to have baths, and the dog needs to be taken out for a walk, and the trash needs to be taken out, right? And we just feel like this is all on us, right? I'm sure so many of us moms can relate to just feeling a little bit unsupported by this other adult who lives in our home. You're like, how come it all falls on me? Right? So if any of these things, if you can relate and say yes to any of these things, then this is contributing to the behavior that we want to stop, right? This yelling behavior. How can I stop yelling at my kids? we're just looking at the tip of the iceberg. We're not seeing all of these things underneath that contribute to this behavior that we want to stop. So it's a really good idea to start to take a look at, yes, I know I yell a lot. Yes, I know I'm frustrated or I'm critical, but what do I have going on underneath the surface that's lending itself to all of my stress? Right? Because when we look at this isn't to put the blame on somebody else and being, okay, yes, it's okay to yell, right? We don't want that. But it's to give us self compassion for ourselves because we do have a lot going on. And we put so much guilt on ourselves and so much, we have such high standards as moms. If we want to be the perfect parent, we don't want to yell, we don't want to scream at our kids, but we have a lot going on. And it's kind of understandable, right? When we have so much going on underneath the surface that we're going to have this behavior. And I'm going to explain why in our next slide. So, one of the things I teach is I teach the kids in a backpack analogy, and the kids love that because I actually bring a backpack and we do this, we act it out. But for parents, I explain it as a stress bucket analogy. So this is something that you can find online. This analogy has been used a lot. So bucket or a water dispenser. I like to use the water dispenser because we have that little tap at the side to open, right? So what this is that all of us carry stress around in our body. And if you think of your body as the water container. Now, some of us have bigger water containers, the ability to carry more stress. Some of us have smaller ones. And this has a lot to do with how we grew up, how safe our home environment was. I talk a lot about this on my 5-day course for parents, how we grew up as children, how we were responded to or not responded to as very young children, as babies, actually affects the way our nervous system develops. Our nervous system affects our stress. And so some people have a smaller window of tolerance for stress. Other people can handle quite a bit, right, without overflowing. So this has to do with your anatomy and the way you're made up and the way you're built, and it also has to do with your personality, right? Some people just don't let things bother them too much. Other people are very, very highly strung. We call that highly stressed or kind of anxious personalities. And so each one of us are we're not all starting from the same level, right? We all have our own. If you have health issues or if you have just kind of a anxious personality anyway, you're going to respond to stress differently than somebody who maybe is completely healthy and maybe they're living in a more privileged situation, right? Different life circumstances affect our ability to handle stress. So, as you can see in our water jug, we have 3 different levels of stress. We have our green level, which is kind of our, the stuff that we deal with every day. That doesn't seem to bother us too much. It's like, okay, I know I have bills to pay. I know I have kids to take care of, right? This is the stuff that's not going to change, right? And so we're all dealing with a certain level of stress. And that's actually in a lot of the ways it's healthy. We need stress. Stress is something that causes us to move and to act in our bodies, right? There's a cortisol gets us up in the morning. If we didn't have to get out of bed because we didn't have any stress, we'd probably just stay sleeping all day, right? So a certain level of stress is healthy and normal. Then you have your yellow level. That's kind of when you start to get a bit on edge, right? You're a little bit, you can feel it. You say your teeth is on edge, right? You're a little bit anxious, a little bit kind of like, all right, yeah, okay, I can feel it in my body, right? Then you have your red level. Now, the red actually should be closer to the top. So the red is where literally one more thing happens. I have had it up. That's why I've had it up here, right? That's literally you saying, that's my red line. If I get one more thing, I'm going to explode, right? So we want to understand, excuse me, just turn that off. We want to understand that our bodies, we are constantly carrying stress around, but we also need to be aware of where our stress level is currently at. And we need to be aware so that we can learn to manage it, right? It's not just, okay, I know I'm stressed. It's, okay, I know I'm stressed. So what can I do? Right? So the awareness is really important, but the awareness always comes before the action. We can't take action if we don't know what's going on, right? And this is why having an idea of what stresses us out the most, right? And so we take this analogy of like a pitcher. Now, everybody's pitcher is going to be different. The things inside, the thing that stresses us out. Now, for me, because I'm highly sensitive, noise stresses me out. Mess stresses me out. Um, Things like, I'm trying to think. Certain things that may bother other people don't seem to bother me too much. But things that really bother me may not bother them too much. So everybody's different, right? Everybody has things that definitely stress them out. Other people are different. So what we want to do is we have two my brain just went totally blank there. We have two strategies that we can use. One is to find out what is in that pitcher, what is pouring into our stress bucket that's filling us up fast. For me, it's noise and mess, right? That stresses me out a lot. For other people, it may be their kids talking back to them. It may be having a messy house, right? And so when we are aware of what stresses us out, and what I'd like you to do afterwards, kind of as homework for this training, is I want you to make a list of all the things that you can think that stress you out, even if it's something really small. If it bothers you, I would say on a scale of 0 being the smallest, 10 being the most, if it stresses you out any more than a 3, I want you to put it on the list, right? You're probably going to have a long, long list. Write them all down. And then I want you to rate them. Which ones are like a level 3? Not too bad. Stress me out maybe to like a green or a yellow. And then I want you to go write the level 6s and the level 7s. Which one are the level 8s and 9s and 10s? Those are the ones you want to focus on. 8 to 10, those are the ones that just like my kid talks back to me and I'm just like ready to lose it, right? That's going to be your level 8 or 9, right? Write that down. And then I want you to compile all the level 8, 9, and 10s. And that's what you're going to put at the top of your list, because those are the ones that are really stressing you out the most. And when we know that, then what we can do is try to limit those things that stress us out. Now, some of the things like my kid talking back to me, we can't really limit it, right? But we can use tools. This is that little dispenser there, that little tap opening up. We can use tools to help manage those things that stress us out a lot. So if you know you have a teenager that stresses you out because they're always talking back, they're refusing to go to school, or they're refusing to do any chores in the house, start to educate yourself, start to get some training, start to hire a coach who can help you work on these strategies, on these things that really stress you out, and give you strategies for these things, right? There is so much online. There's a lot to be done. We don't just have to sit there and go, these things stress me out and I can't do anything about them. There's always something to do. There are always solutions if you really want them, right? Now, they do take work. I'm not going to say they're easy. They take work. But if your goal is, I want to stop yelling at my kids, then we need to start looking at our stress and what stresses us out. We call the stress and stressors. Those are two different things. Stress is a response in our body that is natural. It's healthy for us. When it gets too high and too chronic or acute, then it's unhealthy for us, right? And so we want to do something about the stressors, the things that are stressing us out, right? And again, making a list of what stresses you out, and then going online, being proactive, and okay, I know I have these things that stress me out a lot. What can I do to help manage these stressors, right? And for a lot of us, I don't think we realize that busyness, just constantly being on the go, is a huge stressor for a lot of parents. We overload our schedules and our kids' schedules and our spouses' schedules with doing too much. We're constantly on the go. And this never gives our body a chance to relax. And so I would say pretty much across the board, I'm going to give this as a pretty general guideline. Look at where you can start doing less in your home, in your family. Whether that means, okay, I'm only going to enroll my kids in one sport instead of 3. That is automatically, it means uh, you know, fewer practices to get to. It means less money being spent on these things. And I know we have this fear of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Hey, I want to do it because all my friends are doing it or because all their classmates are doing it. And this is some other training that I can give you, is that we need to stop living our lives according to how other people live their lives and how we think they should be, or how we think we should be in comparison to them, and start living the life that actually makes sense for us and our family. Because if we keep living our life the way other people live their lives, and they may not, they may think that having that level of stress is okay, but for us, we want to change things, right? And so, really, really important. Just try to do less, make things easier, take things off your to do list as much as possible, right? And this is also going to come down to what your family values are. And this is why another way to make a list: what's important for my family, what's a non-negotiable, and what are some things I can start to knock off the list because they're not as important to me or my family, right? Based on our values. So just a little tip there, because I do find a lot of parents who come to me and talk about how busy they are and how many, things they have to get to, and I'm stressed all the time. My kids are stressed, and I do ask them, like, well, what would it be like if you just started taking these things and making your schedule, a little bit easier and simplifying things, right? And it's something that they may not have even thought of. And this is why I keep my schedules pretty free with my kids. We enroll them in one or two sports, for the season, but we're not running around constantly. I meal prep ahead of time so that I'm not stressing out about, dinners or, breakfast in the morning. A lot of preparation and organization comes into play when you want more kind of an easier life and less stress, right? So stress in a different way, but once you get into a system of how to manage these things that really stress you out and being too busy, you find that actually it works a lot better for you, and it makes things a lot easier, right? And also delegating it to different family members. And this is where, getting your teens to help and getting your spouse to help. Communication, right? Another big thing that I work with parents on, because it can be tricky to ask for help, right? As moms, we think everything needs to come down to us. So communicating. And this is where we're going to get to our next slide. This is amazing. This is something that I have been teaching kids for a while. I use it on myself because so many of us as parents think that the anger is the problem. The anger is the problem. The yelling is the problem. I don't want to do that anymore. I wish I just didn't yell anymore. And what is actually going on here is that anger is just an emotion. And what is emotions? Emotions are messages from our body. We may have been taught in school and by our parents and by society that certain emotions are good and certain emotions are bad. And if you listen to any psychologist talk, they all say emotions are neither good nor bad. They are neutral. They are simply messages from the body. What they cause you to do in forms of behavior can be good or bad, but the emotion itself isn't bad, right? It's a message from our body. And so when we learn to listen to this message that anger is telling us, I take the kids through this. This is a series that we do. But when we start listening to the need under the emotion, in this case, anger, we start to focus on what's at the core of the emotion, rather than just take some time to do some deep breathing, which helps as well. It's a coping skill, but it's not getting to the root of why the anger is there in the first place, right? The breathing helps nullify the anger a little bit, helps calm it down, but it doesn't address why the anger is there anyway, right? It's just managing. It's not actually taking the anger away. And so I, this training is probably going to be about half an hour long. I don't want to go too much into this, how to use these tools, but I would love to offer you another training specifically on this strategy that I use: emotions telling us what they need. And this is something that I work on with kids. This is simple. Elementary kids, 8, 9-year-olds kids can learn these skills. And a lot of parents could also learn these tools as well. And when you both can use them together, your communication in your home is going to be so much better. The same goes between you and your spouse. It's a very simple technique. I teach it in a 3-step format. So if you're interested in an additional training on this, you can ask me either privately in the DMs, or you can put it at the bottom of this training in the comments down below. So, what is my anger telling me that I need? That's a really good question to ask. And you may not know, but just taking the time to ask yourself that is already a big step. All right. So before we go, I'm not going to leave you with no tools, right? Um, we do want to get to the root cause of why am I angry in the first place? Once I'm aware of all the stressors and all the things that are causing this behavior of yelling, right? That's going to be a very good self awareness tool. And then I'm also going to give you some tools that you can use in your everyday just to calm you down. Now, remember, there's a difference between a coping skill, which is what we use to manage the emotion, and getting to the root of what is causing the emotion to begin with, right? Those are two separate skills. So, number one, these are very, very simple tools that I use both with kids and with parents. So we're going to do a body scan, just like when we go into the airport and you step into that machine and they do that. Either sometimes it's side to side, sometimes it's up and down. A body scan. So you can hear, I've been talking pretty fast. I'm excited. I'm kind of a little bit out of breath. And even though I'm not angry or, frustrated or anything, I'm excited, which means my body is activated. My nervous system is activated, right? So when your nervous system is activated, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can also be, I'm excited, right? You're kind of, if you're familiar with the polyvagal theory, right? Your body is in an excited state. It's slightly dysregulated, even though it's a excitement. So what you want to do is just find somewhere you can go out. I always encourage parents to step outside in nature because nature has a naturally calming effect on our body, right? Just looking at the green and the blue, that actually really affects our nervous system. And so taking a step outside, and if you can't take a step outside, just maybe even stepping into the bathroom, right? Somewhere a little bit private, a little bit quiet, and you just want to bring your mind's eye into your body. And I want you to close your eyes and you're going to scan your body from head to toe and all the way back up again. And I want you to notice where there is any tenseness in your body, right? Because that's energy, even if it's positive energy. Most of the time, it's not positive, it's stress, it's frustration. So, noticing where it lives in your body. For a lot of us, it lives in our shoulders, our jaw, our neck, our head. That's why we get headaches. For the other kinds of emotions like maybe sadness or fear or frustration, sometimes it lives in our heart or in our stomach, right? The majority of our emotions live below the neck. When we talk about lives, it means you feel the sensations, right? And I teach this in my other training as well. And so by noticing, first of all, where it shows up in your body, that's going to be the first step. And you may find out that for you, it's always going to show up in the same spot. For somebody else, it may show up in another spot, right? Everybody's different. And so, first of all, noticing where that energy is and actually going inside and just saying, acknowledging it. I see you. Oh, I can see you there. It feels really silly, but by acknowledging it, you're putting your attention there. Because remember, if we're talking about our emotion being a need, it's talking to us, it's trying to tell us a message, right? And so when we have our little 2-year-old come up and say, mommy, right? And just by going, okay, go away, like I don't see you there, what are they going to do? They're going to get louder. And so it's really important that we acknowledge that, oh, honey, I see you there. I see you're trying to talk to me. The same goes for that part of our body. The stress, the energy we're feeling. Go inside. You don't have to say it out loud, but just in your mind, say, I see you there. I can see you're holding on to something. You're tense. You're feeling tight. You're feeling, you can use sensation words. You're feeling kind of hot right now. Maybe you're feeling kind of numb right now. I don't even know what you're feeling, but you're feeling something. I don't know what it is, right? And so this is where getting training on using sensation language can be really helpful because not a lot of us have been taught to use this kind of language. And then we're going to move on to our 2x breath. Now, this special kind of breathing I was taught by my meditation teacher. It's interesting because I'm seeing it pop up in other kind of like meditation gurus or yoga gurus. They're also starting to teach this style of breathing. Now it's really important when someone says, "Oh, just take a deep breath," and parents are like, "Oh, that doesn't really help." Even kids, that doesn't help. What's really important is that our exhale needs to be twice as long as our inhale. And this helps our body go back into what we call a parasympathetic state, a rest and digest state. When we're activated, we're in a sympathetic state, which is the fight, flight, or freeze response. And so when we're in a dangerous place, we're not going to be taking long exhales, right? We only do that when we're safe. And so when we take a deep breath in, we activate, like if we want to energize ourselves, we take a deep breath in. And so many people take deep breaths in and then wonder why they're not calming down, because it needs to be a longer exhale. So we call it a 2x breath because we're going to take a 2-second breath in through our nose, and we're going to do a extended exhale, which is 4-second breath out. 2-second breath in, 4-second breath out. And we're going to do that for a couple rounds, by 4 or 5 rounds. And then we're going to try to move up to a 3-second breath in and a 6-second breath out. Do it slow and controlled, right? And this takes training. Our muscles, we're not used to breathing like this. And see if you can get up to 4 and 8. And I guarantee you, if you spend 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes of doing this, your whole body is going to shift. Your nervous state, your energetic state, the tightness in your neck and your back, it's going to start to relax. Because basically you've hacked your brain into thinking, there is no danger here. Nothing is, scaring me. I don't need to freak out. I can relax. And so it's a very clever brain hack. And I use this breathing all the time. I'm washing dishes and I find my shoulders up around my ears and I'm tensing my jaw and I don't even know why. It's really important that we check in with our body numerous times a day, not just once, not just twice, numerous times. If you have a little watch like this, you can set yourself a little reminder, just it buzzes and you'd be like, okay, spend a minute doing some 2x breaths, right? Do a body scan. Where am I feeling tight? I'm going to do some 2x breaths. It's literally can take about 2 minutes just for this little, and you can do it anywhere, right? You can do it when you're watching TV. You can do it when you're in the car. It's really, really going to just shift the state of your nervous system and just help you feel a lot calmer as a result. It's not going to get to the root cause of why the anger is there in the first place. That's going to be another training. But this will help manage and hopefully help you just feel a little bit more relaxed throughout the day, so you're not on that edge where you're just like at the red level, right? I'm up to here, maybe brings you back down to a yellow, right? But eventually we want to get down to a green, and that's going to take a bit more work. So I hope this training has been helpful for you. I know I kind of went a little bit off on a tangent. I get so excited about these kind of topics and teaching it to parents because I know how much it works. Once I started implementing these tools in my life, I saw myself go from being the stressed out mom who was just yelling all the time. I hated it, right? Because I saw my kids withdrawing from me, to now they come to me when they're feeling stressed out, and I'm able, because I'm staying calm, I'm able to help regulate their nervous system. I'm able to help them get to a calm state. This is also something that's really important, co-regulation. Kids can't self-regulate, they co-regulate because their brain neurons match our brain neurons. This is where I talk about be a thermostat, not a thermometer. And I teach all this in my 5-day parent program. So if you're interested in that, just let me know as well. That's a free 5-day course that I take parents through. All right. So I'm hoping that you can use some of these tools right away, both those self-awareness tools that I taught at the beginning, and also these calming tools that you can use at any time during the day. So if this was really helpful for you, you can comment down below what you took away from it, what you're going to practice. If you are starting to practice it, what difference it's made in your life. We want to hear that as well. And I hope to see you guys again soon on another recording or another training. Bye for now.